Hello and welcome. I'm Dhar. It's a setback for Donald Trump. The US Supreme Court has struck down his global tariffs, saying the president overstepped his powers. Trump hasn't held back in his response. He has called the ruling terrible and described the judges who went against him as fools. He's also moved quickly to replace the scrap tariff with a new 10% global levy. To help us understand what this means and where it could lead, particularly for India, we're joined by trade economist Mr. Biswajit Dhar and Mr. Abhijit Das. Alongside with me is also the Federal Business Editor, Mr. Prasanna Mohanty. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the Federal. Let me begin with Professor Biswajit Dhar first. If there's one question that's lingering in the minds of 1.4 billion people today, is what happens to this framework deal that touted to be the daddy of all deals, something that you also decoded on the Federal a couple of days back. This is something that we signed recently. There's lots of amplification, hyperbole in the media. Is this deal still valid? We also hear that our team is in the United States right now discussing to finalize the deal until yesterday. And will these come to an immediate halt after the USSC's verdict?
Yeah, I think as for and thank you for having me here. My view is that with the Supreme Court ruling, since all the reciprocal tariffs are now out, they become illegal. Our trade deal, whatever we agreed, the joint statement is also becoming infructuous, and I think we need to go back to the negotiating table and renegotiate a lot of issues that were imposed on us. And I don't think that we should accept this deal anymore because it is illegal. Because if you look at the joint statement, the 18% tariff that was imposed on us was the reciprocal tariff, the revised reciprocal tariff, and that is what this deal was all about. And many of us, including me, we had said that we actually took a hasty decision accepting this deal. We should have waited, and especially after the U.S. The Congress ruled against the reciprocal tariffs on Canada. There was ample, I think, logic that we should have waited and we should not have actually had gone forward with the negotiations. Because now everything is up there in the air, and we should not just accept the deal as it is.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Abhijit Das here as well. The critics have said, Mr. Biswajit Dhar has also pointed out here, that India should have waited till the USSC ruling. Now that we have signed the treaty right now, what options does India have right now?
Oh, Vijay, firstly, thank you for having me on your program. We have not signed the interim agreement as yet. It remains to be finalized. So we do have wiggle room over there. And let's remember that while we were negotiating for the interim agreement, our objective was to secure a reciprocal tariff, which would have been lower than that being faced by our competitors. Now, with all countries facing 10% tariffs under Section 122, that situation no longer prevails. Even without the deal, we will face 10% tariffs. With the deal, we will also face 10% tariffs. So where is the logic for giving any concessions to the US? I don't see any logic at all. What perhaps our negotiators need to do is to go back to the drawing board, look at what was contained in the bilateral statement between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump of 13th Feb 2025, which indicated a commitment to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement. So maybe from that perspective, if at all the negotiation has to resume, it should be from that perspective and not with the view to getting rid of the reciprocal tariffs or agreeing to an outcome in the interim agreement which says, okay, now we will face 10% tariffs. That I don't think should be the way forward for India.
Okay, so before we delve into the US Supreme Court's verdict and all that. And I want to bring in Federal Business Editor Mr. Prasanna Mohanty. Prasanna, you think India sort of did this deal framework in a hurried manner? You think they should have waited? What's your take?
Uh, I would like to say that uh, I mean, we one option was we could have waited, but that was hurting our exports,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody actually expected this verdict from U.S. Supreme Court because it is dominated by conservative judges,
Mm-hmm.
6-3. Um, so, what if they had not given this verdict? Because at least twice they didn't bite the bullet, so to say, and it has suddenly decided that okay, this is not in Trump's power to use those emergency powers in peacetime, but it could have gone the other way very easily, as most were expecting. So it was a very tough choice for India.
Mm-hmm.
Where facing threat, higher tariff was impacting job loss, income loss. So I think it was not such an easy decision to make for India.
Okay. Okay, so let me bring in both the trade experts here. After the Supreme Court struck down the earlier global tariffs, President Trump has invoked Section 122 for a temporary 10% levy, while Section 232 and Section 301 tariffs remain in place. How do these three trade tools differ legally and strategically as well? Abhijit Das.
Let's be clear, all these three tariffs are completely illegal from the WTO perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a speck of doubt in my mind about it. Let's start with Section 122. Any tariff which United States imposes, which crosses what is called its bound rates at the WTO, will be illegal. All the three tariffs, be it under 301, 122, or 232, will result in US imposing customs duties breaching their bound rate commitments. So, from the WTO perspective, absolutely illegal. Now, coming to the distinctions between the three, Section 122 tariffs is really about addressing situations of international, the dollar's value falling in forex markets, where the fall of the dollar value is imminent and significant. In those
Mm-hmm.
situations, Section 122 can be invoked, which can result in imposition of tariffs not exceeding 15%, which can stay in place for 150 days. Any extension thereafter will require congressional approval. Now, these tariffs under Section 122 will be levied across the board, all countries, all products. When it comes to Section 232, there it is the grounds are different. The grounds are ostensibly for national security. President Trump had invoked Section 232 during his first tenure to impose tariffs on steel and aluminium. He is he has invoked it again, and here the tariffs will be sector specific. Products which undergo investigation by the relevant authorities of US, and in terms of there has to be an investigation report has to come within 270 days. The tariffs will be applied on a sectoral basis, not to an entire country. Then when we come to 301, the rationale for 301 tariffs will really be to examine through an investigation whether a foreign trading partner discriminates against US businesses or violates US rights under trade agreements. Now, these tariffs can be imposed for a period of 4 years. They can be extended repeatedly. These focus on individual countries, but there can be parallel multiple investigations against a large number of countries. So these are the legal differences between the three sets of tariffs. But as I said earlier, from the WTO perspective, all the three tariffs will be completely illegal.
Okay. Professor Biswajit Dhar, would you like to add something about it?
Yeah, I think see, Trump has already finished off the WTO. So WTO illegality, will not really matter, unfortunately, because if you have to challenge 122 in the WTO, there is no dispute settlement mechanism today, and so we are caught in a situation. Well, I think Trump really prepared himself well for this kind of an eventuality that should anyone challenge his unilateral policies, the WTO will not be there to actually solve this problem. So he has taken this measure to completely finish off the dispute settlement mechanism. So we may actually make a kind of a legal point, but it is largely theoretical in my view. It really doesn't have much substance. I think ultimately it is for the countries to take a political decision, and for India to take a political decision that what is happening today is fairly and squarely unequal. And I think what we have seen since the this deal was announced, several stakeholders have actually stood up and said that look, we don't accept the kind of an agreement that has been now been signed, or not signed, but agreed on. And as Abhijit said, that since the agreement has not been signed, unfortunately, it has been signed. The government of India couldn't move as quickly as it wanted to. I think there is ample reason for us to completely reject what we had agreed to, because there may be some arguments coming from some quarters that it's a gentleman's agreement. Yeah, now, does the gentleman's agreement mean that we go back and accept the 18% tariffs? You never know. All kinds of arguments may actually come, be advanced. So my point is that the entire the joint statement, which I said at the beginning, it was the reciprocal tariffs which which was the basis of that joint statement, and everything followed from there. And since the reciprocal tariffs has now become illegal, the entire joint statement and whatever we had actually agreed to and what was communicated through the joint statement doesn't hold any water. And the government of India should, said earlier also, should actually renegotiate and ensure that we negotiate from a point of strength. Trump is on the defensive. His press conference yesterday clearly showed that he's on the defensive. He doesn't have the backing of the Congress because they voted against him in the Canadian case. So he will not get any backing from the U.S. Congress. So I think there's ample ground for India to negotiate from a position of strength. If we are the fourth largest economy, and I was really surprised why we had to make so many concessions to the U.S. Being the fourth largest economy. So I think we should renegotiate from a position of strength, and knowing fully well that President Trump is actually walking on very thin ice.
Okay. Okay. No, let me ask you again there. Since you spoke about countries should come forward and do this, can India mount a multilateral effort to get Trump to withdraw reciprocal and other tariff barriers by getting others, at least informally? We also heard that, US President will be visiting China. He'll be holding bilateral with Xi Jinping in the coming weeks. Are there any precedents of such action in the past at the World Trade Organization?
Who are you asking this?
To you, sir.
Okay. No, I think in the WTO, of course, we had a very broad spectrum coalition of developing countries until
That's right.
at least the recession in 2008. We had a formidable coalition of developing countries, and India was actually in the forefront of it. And I think that I've always thought that this coalition of developing countries should stand up. India, in the past few years, has been talking about the global south and how the global south needs to assert itself. Now, there is no better moment for India to actually get the global south together. And I would say that global south should also include Brazil, China, because India's definition of global south, Brazil, China is not there. You know, so all these major developing countries should come together, and they should forge a coalition, and then define a new world order, because this kind of a world order, dictated by Donald Trump, is unacceptable.
That's right. Okay. And
If we ask Mr. Das about this, can developed countries, can India also join with, say, EU or Japan or Korea, who have also been
like-minded
adverse to
partners,
it?
basically.
Yeah, can that is that possible? Has there been any precedents earlier?
Theoretically, yes, that is possible. There has been a precedence when European Union, India, Mexico, Japan, a few other countries, they joined hands to take on the United States at the WTO through the dispute against what is called the Byrd Amendment. I will not go into technicalities of that dispute, but that was a dispute in which a large number of countries, developed and developing, joined hands, prosecuted a dispute against US, won the dispute, compelled the US to withdraw that legislation. In the present context, unfortunately, my suspicion is that while European Union may be making noises against what President Trump is doing, their interests are closer to that of the United States than being closer to India and other developing countries. So we will perforce have to rely on a coalition amongst developing countries to take on Trump, and that is a lesson which in the at the WTO in agriculture negotiations we tried to have a coalition with European Union. That didn't work. That just didn't work. So it's better that we focus our attention, our energies, our diplomatic capital in forging a coalition with like minded developing countries and maybe one or two developed countries. I don't rule that out. That would only lend heft to such a coalition. But it really has to be led by developing countries.
Okay, one last question there, sir. The ruling also opens the door to potential litigation over tariffs already collected. If you really see it, it's something around, I think it's 115 to 130 to 170 billion, according to an expert whom we spoke this morning. What happens to the US companies seeking refund since the US Supreme Court has asked the local courts to deal with this matter? Can Indian exporters also claim their part of the gain after this verdict? There's again a lot of uncertainty on this.
Yeah, of course, there is. Sorry, whoever. I don't
No,
know.
please go ahead, sir. Biswajit, sir, please go ahead.
Okay. No, see, this is one issue that the Supreme Court has not addressed. And therefore, everyone is talking about the uncertainty that there is in the state. So I think we'll have to wait and watch. I think this issue may actually go back to the could go back to the lower courts, and they will then decide the modalities. Supreme Court has given the broader ruling regarding the reciprocal tariff, and now the fallout of it will have to be decided by the administrative system going forward.
Okay,
But can that question be, sorry, Mr. Das, can that question go back to the US Supreme Court or no?
I have no idea on that. But let me also give you another dimension to this issue of refunds. The customs duties are paid by the US importer, so the refund will go to the importer. Now, the point over here is in a large number of cases, the increase in customs duty was borne by the exporter. So if there is a refund
Yeah.
to the importer, then it results in a windfall enrichment of the US importer. So these issues certainly will be relevant in determining the modalities for refunds.
There were different reports which said the importers and exporters shared the burden. Some said 30-70 or 60-40. So the spin off part comes from there. If both shared, then they would have a share also in the refund.
But very difficult to really these are
Yeah.
parts of commercially sensitive information, and neither the importer nor exporter would like to come out publicly. Maybe what could happen, and I'm just speculating, is that the refund goes to the importer, and through an understanding between the importer and exporter, depending on how the customs duties got absorbed, who bore the burden, they could have some sort of an arrangement amongst themselves.
One
Okay.
question, Vijay, I would like to ask
Sure, sure.
both Professor Dhar and Mr. Das. I don't know whether you any of you track stock markets, but I just happened to see the Indian stock market. The reaction was very muted this morning. Um, what probably could have been the case?
Well, it's very difficult. Stock market behavior is very difficult to predict, and it is I would not like to speculate as to why the stock market is behaving in this manner. U.S. stock market reacted pretty positively to this judgment, and maybe our stock markets will react with a lag. So we'll have to wait till Monday and see how our stock market actually reacts to this decision.
That's right. Okay. So thank you very much. Very insightful talking to each one of you. Thank you very much for your time once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, thank you.